to the channel and to this, another good old aphalas lore video. And as you can see, we are looking at a zoomed in portion of the map, and hence also why there is no face cam, because I wanted to make sure the map was visible. And as you can see, we can also zoom in, I hope. Yep, can zoom back out. So what I wanted to cover today as a part of a lead into another lore element I'm working on, and I really apologise if you can hear the squeaks. I need to figure out how to unsqueak the chair, if that's possible. But I just wanted to go across the lands of Arrarysn, and I will perfectly admit this has actually been inspired by a couple of videos that I've never actually finished watching but are on my list, and they're about the world of Elder Scrolls. Elder Scrolls is a series that I've never really known too much about, but I want to delve more into it. So yes, there is full inspiration to those videos, and I will put a tagline for people to check them out if I can remember what they're called. But this is the continent of Arrarysn. Those of you who have watched the Kirindrek video or the Ajati video, you know about the realm of Arrakin, or Arrakirin. You know about the continent, the land of Arrarysn, and the domains that are held between the two protector races on these little outlets, if you wish. It's a bit interesting. They sort of form a giant kind of cove in their own right. But I wanted to look at this in a couple of different ways, and one of them was looking at the geography and just going across all of aphalas, inspired actually by Book of Choya's exploration of the Empire videos. But I also wanted to delve into the political side, showing the layouts, because out of all of aphalas, aside from possibly on Arrarysn, Arrarysn is the most sort of just divided. And just to highlight that, I'm just going to see if I can just switch over. I couldn't get the window capture to work, so I've had to do it via display capture. But there we are. This is the sheer, like, political division of just this whole continent. And I will note that the Ice Sea is currently empty, but there are ideas for that. There are some ideas forming. But we can explore through the political side first. Maybe do it a bit backwards. Go through the political side and then play into the geography from that. So, to outwardly begin with, the Guard Realm of Arrakirin are the only surviving current realm aside from the Isle of Majorn for the Kirindrek. And as a reminder for those, and the video will evidently be tagged, but the Kirindrek are essentially like white tiger humanoids, and they are, alongside the Dracon, some of the most powerful magic users, but a lot of their strategy, a lot of their style is very unorthodox amongst the protector races. And below them are one of the two main enduring and surviving realms of the Ajati, with several settlements. If we can just zoom in a bit and have a look at that, you have the actual capital of Arrarysn, then you have Eritaron and Kalas Taros. And these two are the they are what the Dracons and the Wood Elves are for Destinal. They are or the Ajati and the Forest Dwarfs for sure. They are the protectors. They are their names like the protector races. They're the gods. But whilst places like Shar and Destinal have normally the general makeup, you've got the set sort of good, the set sort of bad, and then a couple who tend to drift in the middle. Arrarysn has a mass amount of more interconnecting kind of relations and more distant ones, and the main reason for that, as you can see with it brandished quite highly in the writing, the Great Steppe. There are numerous tribes amongst the Great Steppe. There are a lot of minor ones that just sort of float about. There are bandits, there's all sorts, and they each have various different alignments, and every sort of alignment amongst those of aphalas is present within the steppe. You have the little settlement of Vanalun, Nagrasak's flame tribe, the only tribe to be fully aligned with, obviously, Nagrasak, and then you have the inadvertent nature of what happened with the Dark Elves who ventured north from that territory, becoming the Ice Elves who have become committed to serving Senetvia and her wishes. And then you've got just various others. You've got the Forgotten having a presence as well in Kabiles. You've got just random chaotic bandits, and then you've got those who are more aligned with the forces of... I know the word is good, but I never really like using that word because it's just very sort of generic. But you have the Lost Ones, and who work heavily in conjunction with the Wardens of Narkurlin. Narkurlin being a sort of strange settlement just tucked in the hills there. Some could say it's a bit of a haven, some could say it's something else, but there are passageways that it is in charge of guarding. The Lost Ones are... this is the thing, there's not too many purely outwardly nomadic forces, but the Lost Ones are one of the semi-nomadic ones, as in... not semi as in they do temporarily find settlements. It's more they venture and they keep with that nature, but they limit themselves to this sort of area. And a lot of these ventures have come from previous battles and conflicts where just the different diplomatic sides have formed and designed, because the majority of the steppe tribes consist of primarily goblins, ogres, humans, and half-ogres, and many of them were formed out of the survivors of the initial coalition of the scribe and the current and the outward destruction that happened there. So many fled to Arrarysn as essentially just looking for somewhere safe, and eventually they formed, but then fractions started breaking down and everything, and it became a law unto itself in a lot of ways. And the further sort of northeast you get, the more chaotic it kind of gets. The Haven tribe of Daelinir and the Bandit Hunters and the Heart of the Steppe tribe have a strange sort of triumvirate kind of alliance that's formed. They will mutually agree, they will mutually protect one another if threatened, because they all recognise that as much as there are other threats, the biggest threat is to their north, or from, again, the southeast if Nagrasak ever sends his forces against them again. But the interesting thing is, though, is that whilst they have a triumvirate, it is a strictly no step related one. They have very little connection to the Ajati. They have limited connection to the Kirindreg, which I'll get into in a minute. But they are right next to the Lost Ones, or Daily Nears right next to the Lost Ones, and you would think that maybe it would have some correlation with Narcolin, but they largely keep on to themselves. And most of the south is the tricky area because it's got the most concentration of allies for the protector races. The Scorpion Eye tribe are the most strictly just aligned with them, and the nomads of the Emerald Path are actually led by a Kirindrek, Sophirin, if I remember that's the name correctly. I will double check that at some before the video's out, but they are the nomads who patrol that sort of area. So in terms of the protector races actually having any presence in the eastern steppes, the nomads of the Emerald Path are pretty much the limitation to that. And the Scorpion Eye tribe is sort of surrounded by, is the safest sort of concentration. But then you have the odd one, or one of the two odd one outs in all of this. Or technically there might actually be three, but Garrelane. Garrelane is still technically a trade settlement. No, not a trade settlement, a steppe settlement. It still has the same sort of correlation and things. But they are traders. They very much keep to themselves. It's that are they like the aphalas Venice? That it's that kind of nature though. They are very much focused on simple trade over most other things. They have courteous relations with the Kirindreg and the Ajati, but they are the ones who haunt this little pocket, but they are in this sort of area of just sheer importance and vital area for Arrarysn, because they are one of the main simple trade hubs with one of the only working ports in the amongst all the steppes. But it also comes with a problem, because as I may have gone into with the Kirindreg video, but I have mentioned in others, at a certain point in the history of the world of aphalas, in particular Arrarysn, the A-gate barrier goes up, a mystical energy barrier conjured by as many Kirindreg mages as could be mustered to basically do what the original creators did with on Arrarysn with the Ruby Mist, forming this sort of mystical barrier to cut Arrarysn off from the rest of aphalas. But similarly to on Arrarysn again, this was done not so much to protect the continent from the threats outside of it, but to protect the world from the threats on the continent. In one of the key stories that is being worked on, the Ice Elves make a massive maneuver that not only almost cripples several of the steppe tribes, but it also, if it had gone through, it would have totally wiped out any resistance on Arrarysn and would have been able to just break forward onto the rest of aphalas. And essentially seeing that absolutely terrified the Kirindreg and the Ajati, so they did what they had to do to ensure that something like that couldn't happen again. So they purposely cut off their own homeland from the rest of the world. But like the Ruby Mist, there are still exceptions to that, where in particular mages or the enchanters of certain potential and certain caliber can actually navigate through it, which is how the trade is still able to go through, and how supplies can still arrive for places in the steppes and things. But unfortunately, the other issue with this is that it just caused things like bandits to just increase even more so. Because it's a few years before that story, the advanced settlement of Arrarysn, Ulivarlen, was actually taken by a particular set of bandits who broke themselves off, and they decided to occupy the territory, and from then they just launched consistent raids into the borders of Arrarysn. And in a quest for vengeance over some not so nice slights that happened to them. But now we move on to one of the other key elements, Carbalez. The forces of Carbalez are led by a renegade bloodline of wyverns that have broken off and managed to escape on our Kirith. And they settled in here and they have occupied, and they surrounded by two sets of many hills, essentially tucked away in their own little valley. Most do their best to absolutely leave them alone because of the presence of a wyvern, with the only real forces, aside from Kirindreg mages or the Ice Elves potentially, that would actually be capable of challenging the wyvern if it decided to fight, being the Sparrowhawks, which it's not actually marked on this version of the map, but this mountain is actually a notable mountain, and it is the main home of the Sparrowhawks. Because that's the other thing, Arrarysn has a lot of other creatures about it. You've got the Sparrowhawks who replaced the wyverns as the protectors of the sky. You've got the Eyes of the Father as well, the lynxes who venture around, among many others, like offshoot creatures. And obviously it being a steppes are normally teeming with different sorts of creatures and things. But there are some other elements, as in the Ice Sea and all of this area being where the Xerxian humans initially came up from. And there are remnants of the Xerxian humans. What is my mouse doing? Sorry. No. Sorry about that. But you have the Fayoun mountain holdings, where the remaining humans of the Xerxians no, that's not strictly true. A lot of the humans who are Xerxian in nature are the ancestors of the Fayoun. And amongst the lower territories of the Fayoun are also a rebelled experiment of the Ice Elves, of the Half Rhinos, and their people and everything. And I really should update this map with a ruin here because of the old Kirindreg territory. But hang on, if I can just go back to the other map, because I just want to showcase that Arrarysn does go down to here as well. I wanted to do that to showcase how the world connects, and the fact that yes, this world is of a circular shape and not, or a global shape and not flat. But there are a couple of Fayoun territories right at the bottom there as well. Arrarysn is a very unique place amongst aphalas, and there are I mean, I could scour across here as well. There are ruins littered around the steppes from attempted and failed constructions of territories. And this whole line of mountains are some of the most important, with Anilon being the absolute epicenter of protection against the forces of the Ice Elves. The Protector race relations with the Faerun, and even the steppe relations with the Faerun, are distant at best. They're like... The Faerun are very, very much a force unto themselves. There have been many attempts to get them to side with the forces of good. There's been attempts to get them to side with the... And occasionally there's been other holdings that have separated, and there's been internal struggles and things, but for the most part they just keep to their mountain network and keep to themselves. But they have also shown on more than one occasion to be in open defiance to the Ice Elves, so in a manner of speaking, and there we go, also just on the side note, the Shrouded Eye, that's the name of the mountain. In a manner of speaking, the Faerun are always going to have more of a preference to side with the Protector races, but they don't think too highly of them either. They're largely just sets of humans who have committed themselves to mountain dwellings and kind of just want to really be left on their own for the most part. They occasionally have launched out absurd conquests when one of them's gone a bit power hungry or something, but that's normally just gone into the steppes. They haven't really dared to ever actually properly attack the Kirindrek after the only time they did actually try, and it ended up going very badly for them. But there are some other notable areas that I want to develop more in the lore as things go on, like the Serpent's Coil. Sorry, the mouse is being weird again. The Serpent's Coil, this like network of coiling hills within the realm of the Kirindrek, and Marge Forest, more about what's going on in the Ice Sea, the woodland as well. There are a lot of ideas that I would like to explore with Arrarysn. So yeah, and I know this was a bit of a rambly video, and I will try and crop some images in when it comes to the recording. I'm doing this on stream as well, but I wanted to just highlight and go over this. Knowing that the first book is out, and actually the second book, I'm probably not going to really cover Destinal and the Twin Isles in the next ones, though I might continue with this theme of doing the more outer territories and actually look at the Arach Nihilith next, because there's never really been an actual dedicated video on it yet. So that might be the next one, and then it will probably circle down to on Arrarysn, because that is where the idea from which all of this has spurred on actually originated, with it, if the mouse can actually let me do the little fun showcase, with it actually being... Oh my god, mouse! This is why wired mice are overrated. With it actually being Arrarysn, which is the one that's had the idea spurred onto it. And that is where I'm going to leave this video for today. I don't want to eat up any more of the time just rambling on about the points I've already repeated. So, sorry. About it just showing the OBS there. I keep forgetting I've got display capture on. I hate display capture. But this is where I'm going to leave it again today. So please do comment, like, and subscribe. Please do check out the links in the description. Please also, by all means, check out the Ko-fi page. We're getting closer and closer to the final part of the aphalas trilogy being released. So, yeah, if you want to look at maybe taking up the trilogy now in preparation for the last one coming out, this is a decent time to do it. Links will be in the description. If you're watching this later on Twitch, obviously the link to the Ko-fi page is on one of my panels, and it also pops up on the stream. So, yeah, until next time, welcome to the Kingdom of Aphalas and the world of Fellow Mind books.